Joe, we talked about this guy in our top 5 running backs. We just didn't know where he was going to go. I'm going to add on to this when I talk about Miami as a team, but I first want to talk about Damien Martinez, the Oregon State running back who is now headed to Miami. Joe, another real big-time pickup for the Miami Hurricanes. What are your thoughts on him going to Miami?
Yeah, this was the best landing spot for him. And then if I look at the whole situation, both sides heavily benefit. They lost some running backs in the portal. They needed to take that leap from having a good running back room to having an elite back that is going to carry the load of carries for this team. This offense has come together so nicely over this offseason.
I agree.
I tweeted it out. If anyone wants some really good value on a bet for the first overall pick next year, put it on Cam Ward because you're getting some pretty good odds on that one. He is going to have Xavier Restrepo that he's still going to be throwing to, Jacoby George, who both of those guys were one of the more underrated receiver pairings in college football, but didn't have a very good quarterback throwing to them, so their production was limited. Now we have one of the most balanced offenses in college football and in the ACC. Damien Martinez is the next coming of the big body, big framed back that we're not used to seeing in college football these days. He can take a load of carries. He can run right through your face mask because he has that type of mentality. I really love this, and I think it fits really nicely with this offensive line.
Well, look, they also do have a plethora of running backs, right? And so running backs that I do think that can spell him. I do think he's going to be the number 1 back. I do think that there are concerns here. Let me go through a couple of them.
Okay.
Joe, you're coming into this team after they go through spring ball. Number 1, how quickly can he pick up the playbook? Now he's a running back. So I mean,
I'm not too worried.
There's not really a lot of worry. However, the thing that I worry about the most, it's not the running game. It's not any of that. Joe, there are different things in pass pro on how things are called that could take them not long, but does take running backs, and we see this. This isn't just a him thing. It's something that we see in football even at the next level where he might need to get acclimated pretty quickly. Now, he's an older back. He's an experienced back. He'll probably pick it up quickly. But when I look at this in its totality, when I'm talking about the Miami Hurricanes, Joe, I'm looking at their offensive line. Rivers, Akula, Carpenter from the portal. You got Cooper, the right tackle, Francis.
Mawanoa.
Mawanoa.
Samson Okunlola and Francis Mawanoa.
Okay, well, I can't. You know how I am.
Well, this is why I'm here. The only one I can't figure out how to pronounce is Nico, and I've apologized a million times. But
yeah,
Francis Mawanoa, Samson Okunlola. And look, folks, you're going to want to learn how to say those names because you're going to be talking about them a lot this year and in another year when they're going into the NFL.
Correct. That's where I was going. I think that their running game is going to be bigger. So, Joe, the question becomes, they have weapons on the outside. They have a really good offensive line. They have a really good quarterback. I think 3 things for the Miami Hurricanes are pretty simple. Number 1, I do think that Cam Ward finally gets a running game that he has been desperately needing at every one of the stops he's been, from Incarnate Word, Washington State, and now here. John, I'm really intrigued. They're the most intriguing team to me in the ACC. They could be the most intriguing team to me in college football because talent-wise, I look at them. Look, Marley Cook on the defensive side, Elijah Alston, another dude, and they're trying to continue to push in the interior of that defensive line as well. So I look at them and I look at just how good that they are and the weapons that they have. However, they have Mario, and I'm really interested to see how he uses a guy like this and Damien Martinez. But, Joe, it's difficult for me not to look at them because we'll talk about Florida State, or I will talk about Florida State later on in the show. It's just they're adding in really good pieces where I do think that Florida State, which we just saw, lost a lot of good pieces.
So I think that that's the right way to really depict this. All of the pieces, the offense,
I know,
the
offensive. I said
it. I hate giving you credit for things sometimes. The offensive line, the offense, the weapons, all of it is reminiscent of a team that would be good enough to win their conference. But interestingly enough, we forget who their head coach is sometimes when we talk about this. And I've had a number.
Can I play devil's advocate? Can we talk about this?
Well, this is why I'm bringing it up. I have had a number of people that I have spoken to over the past couple of weeks, just this offseason, about Mario. And even yesterday, somebody who works in college football, when I tweeted the Cam Ward thing, sent me a DM and was like great pick. But at the same time, I'm a little worried about Mario and how he impacts things. I don't think it impacts Cam Ward's play, but we just need to be wary of what the in-game decision-making is like. All I take away from this, it is put up or shut up time for Mario Cristobal. We have criticized him. We have been supportive of some of his decision-making and roster-building moves. He has to get past the depiction that he has received over the past year, especially by the media. He can't make dumb decisions in big game situations anymore. He just can't. Otherwise, they are going to still stick as a 9-win football team and nothing more, and sitting on the outside of the playoff and looking in.
Cam Ward needs to worry about Cam Ward mistakes now. It's not as if that Cam Ward didn't have massive mistakes when it comes to what he did at Washington State. Threw a lot of interceptions, had a lot of instances
where I'm able to throw to, though. So I'm giving him a little bit of a pass.
Hold on. I don't give a shit. When you have a guy that has a history of throwing interceptions at all places, guys that historically don't have time. I mean, through 12 last year in 12 games? He had an interception a game. That's not good. That's bad decision-making.
Yeah.
Very bad decision-making. Now, here's the question that I would ask you, okay? We give Mario a lot of shit, and he's done a lot.
He had 7 interceptions.
Well, I thought he had 12.
Not according to college football stats.
Okay, there was a year he had 12. What year did he have 12?
He had 9 in 2022. He had 7 in 2023, and I'm pulling up his incarnate word stats right now.
Okay, well, then I'm off. I thought he had 12, so that's my fault, and I'll correct myself on that. He still makes some bad decisions sometimes. All right. Where was I at?
You were talking about his – I mean, he still does make mistakes.
Oh, Mario.
And we were talking about Mario.
Joe, have we been a little too harsh on him? I mean, he had one bad game.
No, we haven't.
Situation. Okay. He's going into year 3, and he has the roster. Now, if he falls on his face this year, I will agree with you, okay. But, Joe, we still have a coach that did a lot of really good things at Oregon. I mean, he's having to let's call it what it is. He's rebuilding Miami. Right? Like, I mean, it's a full-on rebuild. And the question that I would ask, we did the same thing last year with Sarkisian. We did this same, and you know what? You know what's very interesting? They almost, to a T, if you look at blue chip ratio, if you look at portal additions, if you look at so many different things, Joe, I don't know if we're not putting them in the same exact category. Sarkisian never won 10 games ever and got to a playoff last year. I think that there is something to be said. Now, Mario's got to get out of his own way. And now you have a 12-team playoff. Joe, they're talented. So you're going to really screw this up to not be in a 12-team playoff if you're them. Really screw it up.
I think that 2 things can be true at the same time, which we love to say on this show.
Well, it's my favorite saying. I should get it tattooed on my chest.
Or on your forehead. It can be true, as we're giving him credit for, that he's taking all of the important necessary steps to improving the team. That can be very, very true. And this is one of the things that I think when we have discourse is a lot of people react very linearly to the things that you say. It's why when we get clipped, a lot of times things get clipped out of context. It happened with Miami and Florida State literally a week ago. Things get clipped out of context because you don't show the whole conversation. I'm tired of like this notion that we can't criticize those in college football, and we can't criticize coaches for being bad at one thing and being good at another. It goes with a lot of the coaches that I've said deserve to be on the hot seat but are not being talked about. And Mario fits in that in this bit where he's done a great job so far this offseason and over the past couple of years, restructuring what was a barren roster. And I agree that the Sarkisian parallel is great. It's perfect. But at the same time, Mario Cristobal has been a head coach at multiple places and has failed to live up to expectations in big game situations multiple times at Oregon and so far at Miami. Just because I say that doesn't mean that he can't get past that and that Miami can't overwork that.
It goes to the point that I'm telling you. I mean, we literally were take the names off just for a moment. Okay, and look at how both programs are being built. I mean, we had the same exact conversation last year about Sarkisian, right? Like
it's very similar.
It's very similar. So the question now becomes, is Mario, and by the way, going to be real with you, with a not, I mean, their schedule's got some really tough opponents on it, not what Texas had last year.
No.
I mean, Florida State, okay.
I think it's comparable because, I mean, you got to take into account the Texas.
No, but Joe, I mean, you're talking about Texas going to Alabama. I get they were who they were when they played them. You're still going into T-Town and you're winning where it's very difficult to win there, and they beat the GOAT. I mean, it is comparable when you talk about in-conference play. But Oklahoma? I mean, Joe, Kansas? I mean, you're talking about teams that had really good years, really good teams in that conference. So I look at them and say I'm a little bullish on them because I look at them on paper, all right, and say to myself, they're a really good team. And now you're adding Damien Martinez to this fold here. Joe, Cam Ward and Damien Martinez in the same backfield is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Look, on the outside is absolutely ridiculous. This offensive line is ridiculous.
I'm all in.
If they do not succeed,
it's because of Mario.
Bottom line.
That's what I've been trying to say.
But I don't think that they are. I think they're too talented. There are teams, Alabama for the first 6 games of last year. Sometimes there are teams that suck at specific things, but they're so freaking talented and culture, teams find ways to win.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
To round out the thought, I agree with you. I am in on them. Early running for one of the teams that I like for this upcoming year. But if they fail, it all falls on Mario's shoulders. It's the only one that can take the criticism. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.